What happens to your character when you have negative HP? Well, normally, you die, since the only way to, if briefly, achieve negative HP is to get hit for more health than you have. Within the core gameplay of Terraria, this is the only way to get negative HP, and, well, it doesn't exactly last very long. However, using certain external methods, it is possible to get a character to somewhat stably have a negative HP value. By using an inventory editor to set the max HP of your character to a negative value, you can actually enter a Terraria world with negative HP preset. As the check to kill you for having negative health doesn't actually run until a damage tick is processed, you don't die instantly upon loading in, meaning you can actually play the game with negative HP. Just like that. Negative HP Terraria. Of course, this doesn't mean that wacky things don't happen when you try to play the game with negative HP. In fact, there's quite a bit of unintended behavior if you try. So, that's what we're going to look at today. What happens to your character if you stay at negative HP? Let's start from 0 HP and slowly make our way all the way down to the negative integer limit. Negative 2,147,483,648 HP. At 0 HP, things are quite tame. As expected, if you take any damage, you die, since even a 1 damage tick would send you negative. However, what is weird is that your health bar, both the life counter and the hearts themselves, completely disappears. It's just not there. You might have noticed similar behavior to this in 1 HP hardcore runs before. At absurdly low HP caps, the health GUI simply refuses to render. Overall, being at 0 HP isn't actually materially any different than being at 1 HP. You die in 1 hit, health bar doesn't render, yada yada. There isn't really anything new here, but things will start to get wacky once you get into true negatives. Our next stop is at negative 20 HP. Here, you'll notice that suddenly, our health bar is back. Well, at least a part of it is. The hearts themselves are still gone. This is because 20 HP is equal to a full heart in Terraria. With at least 1 full heart to render on the health bar, Terraria's health GUI wakes up and actually starts existing again. On the positive side, this all works properly, with 20 HP showing 1 heart and the corresponding counter. However, at negative HP, it bugs out a bit. The life counter shows up properly at negative 20 HP, but the hearts themselves don't. I guess this has something to do with the game trying to render a negative amount of hearts and therefore not rendering any, but I could be wrong. Either way, at negative 20 HP and lower, the life counter begins to work. As you lower your HP more and more, you won't actually notice any abrupt changes at any specific number. I mean, what special numbers are there between negative 20 and a negative integer limit? What can even happen? Surely there can't be that much unintended behavior. Oh. Yeah, you just died right after logging in, so what gives? Well, let's talk about natural regeneration. Normally, natural regeneration slowly increments your health passively over time, and is quite helpful in pretty much all cases. However, here it does pretty much the exact opposite. Look up the formula for natural regeneration, and you'll find that it is based on your max HP. More HP, more regen to fill up at a reasonable pace. A good mechanic. However, if your max HP is negative, that means your natural regeneration is negative too. Yes, this means at negative max HP, your natural regeneration actually hurts you. When you're at negative max HP, as soon as you quote naturally regenerate a single point of HP, you will immediately die as you're dealt 1 point of damage, causing a damage update. The amount of damage this takes depends on your max HP. The higher it is, the faster you'll reach the quote healing tick, and the faster you'll die. At low negative values, it takes quite a long time to succumb, as it takes quite a while to build up to the minimum 0.5 HP per second needed to give a quote healing tick with such low max HP. But at higher values, you'll die immediately after the 5-second regeneration cooldown is over. If you equip buffs that speed up regeneration time, like the Crimson Armor or sitting in a chair, you can die even faster than that. Oh, and because natural regen build-up time doesn't reset on death, once you die the first time, you'll keep dying in an infinite loop. Cool. So yeah, between negative 20 and a negative integer limit, it's basically a whole lot of death by natural regen, which is kind of funny to say. At some point, you should consider giving yourself the bleeding debuff just so that you can actually survive. Other than the natural regen damage progressively getting more and more ridiculous, there isn't actually much to see here as we go more and more into the negatives. So let's spare the time and move on to our next milestone. Our second to last stop is at quite an odd number indeed, negative 2,147,483,249 HP, which is 399 from the negative integer limit. For some reason that is absolutely beyond me, at this exact number, the health bar begins to render again. It renders as if you had a full set of life fruit, which would typically be 500 HP, which would somewhat make sense if this were 500 HP from the negative integer limit. However, this occurs not 500 HP from the limit, not even 400 HP, but 399 HP from the limit, which is just baffling. On top of this, if you switch the health interface to the old 1.3 style hearts, all of the hearts render weird and oversized. Huh? All of this is just something I discovered while testing, and I have absolutely no explanation for it. Finally, we arrive at our last stop, the negative 32-bit integer limit, negative 2,147,483,648 HP. Remember, 2's complement. This is the lowest possible HP value you can assign to the Terraria character. Behavior changes dramatically at this stage. Instead of dying from every possible damage tick, we instead become completely invincible. You can still take damage, it ticks, but you just don't die. This is probably caused by one of my favorite computer things, an integer underflow. If you take damage at the negative integer limit, it will attempt to decrease your health. Normally this lands at 0 or some negative and kills you, but as there can't be a number lower than negative integer limit, it instead underflows into a positive number. That's right, taking damage at the negative integer limit sets you to positive HP. Due to this, you don't die from the hit, since, well, you still have positive HP. The game then immediately recognizes you have more HP than your max HP, and quickly sets you back to your max HP. In the end, this means your health just doesn't change at all if you take damage, and thus you become completely invincible. This behavior isn't actually unique to the negative integer limit itself. For example, if I take 500 or more damage while having negative 2,147,483,149 max HP, it'll still underflow and I'll survive. The player can survive any amount of damage if it underflows the health counter. It's just that this behavior is most exemplified at a negative integer limit since, well, all damage, even 1 ticks, would underflow the counter at that point. Around now, you'll also notice these massive clouds of 4 damage ticks surround you. These are actually the natural regen damage ticks we talked about before, just turned up to max because of our insane max HP value. You can actually get and see and admire them now since, unlike every other health value, you can't die to them anymore. I bet you've never seen this many damage ticks in a single place in your life. So, these are the wonky things that happen whenever a character has negative HP. As I said previously, unintended behavior. If you want to play around a negative HP, you can use any inventory editor to edit a character. TerraSaver is a default option, although for this video I used TerraPlurEdit by Philip K, who also suggested the idea for this video in my Discord. Thank you. TerraPlurEdit also runs faster than TerraSaver from my experience, meaning rapid edits should be a bit less painful. Also, do note that negative HP characters only work properly in vanilla Terraria, not modded Terraria. In Tmod, all negative HP characters are automatically reset to positive, sadly. So, make sure you do that. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to the channel, as only about a fifth of you are. Similar videos should be on the left and right. Regardless, thank you, and see you next month. Or something, whenever my upload schedule fixes itself.